Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of virtual learning. Today, we're going to start talking about this thing called Bloom's Taxonomy. It is a theory that is what really helps push forward why I ask certain questions and why I have certain expectations of you inside this class. I have a motto that I say. It's hung up here in my classroom called "Writing equals thinking, thinking equals learning." So in order to learn, you have to engage with higher level thinking. You got to think. And one of the best ways to generate that higher level thinking is through writing. And so this lesson that we're doing today is to hopefully help you see why certain questions are asked and why you need to work with these higher level questions instead of the ones that are easier, the lower level ones. So the assignment actually is a pretty simple one. All I'm asking you to do is create 6 questions. These 6 questions will be each level of Bloom's. If you don't know what that is just yet, by the end of this video, hopefully you will. And you're going to create 6 questions for this fable called Why Rabbit Has a Short Tail. It should be on Classroom. And I also provided some stems to help you ask those particular questions. Let me share the PowerPoint and then we can get going. Desktop 1, there we go. So if we were in a normal class, I would have asked you, a normal class, I would have little strips of paper cut out and I'd pass it out to all of you for you to do this activity. Even tomorrow, or even today with the normal student, even today with the in-class students, we are not able to do this because of COVID, so we're trying to keep down how much interaction we have with one another. So they're not going to get strips of paper similar to you. I'm gonna have them do similar to what you're doing. So on the next slide, you're gonna see the 6 levels of thinking, and I want you to put them in order from easiest to hardest. So write down 1 through 6, number 1 through 6. 1 would be the easiest, 6 would be the hardest, and I want you to label this one's the easiest thing to do, this is the hardest thing to do. And here are the 6 levels. Evaluation, learner is asked to compare 2 patterns. Application, learner is given a pattern and then finds a new use for it in a new situation. Analysis, the learner finds the patterns by him or herself. Comparison, the learner is given a pattern and then asked to paraphrase or extend the pattern. Knowledge, the learner is given a pattern and then asked to repeat it. And then synthesis, the learner creates, combines, or ignores patterns. So I want you to rank these from easiest to hardest. Pause the video right now and rank them. All right, welcome back. And I hope you had their ranking there to kind of give you a baseline of what you're thinking going into this. So as mentioned earlier, this is Bloom's Taxonomy. This is the theory behind how I teach things and stuff, but not whatnot. I use a completely different theory to teach you whatnot. So here's the order that Bloom's normally shows up as. It kind of goes from the bottom according to Bloom's, the bottom is the easiest, the top is the hardest, and it increases in rigor or difficulty as you go further up. If your ranking didn't match up with this, that's perfectly fine. So certain people do certain parts of Bloom's a little bit easier than others. Everybody's brain is different. And everything is grouped into these 3 main categories. You have low-level thinking, which is knowledge and comprehension, middle-level thinking, which is application and analysis, and high-level thinking, which is synthesis and evaluation. We as teachers really want you to hit on the sweet spot, which is middle-level thinking. Because with that middle-level thinking, you are able that's whenever you start to engage with higher level thinking. In fact, there's studies that show that as soon as your brain performs middle level thinking, depending on if you're kind of a left brain, right brain person, if you're more logical or creative, your brain will automatically start jumping into the higher levels of synthesis and evaluation. All right. So at this point is when I would pass out Why Rabbit Has a Short Tail, the fable, and you would read it. You can do that. You can pause the video and read it right now if you want. Or you can wait until the end to read it and do the assignment then. All right, and then we would create 6 questions for the story using Bloom's Taxonomy, and we'd have a question for each and every level. Not the questions that I'm about to give you, but you would create your own. All right, so the first level is knowledge. Knowledge is the learner is given a pattern and then asked to repeat it. And so the example would be, what are some of the things that the rabbit did to fox? All that you would be doing is just kind of listing. You could look in the story and just repeat things that rabbit did to fox. That is very low level. You don't necessarily have to do much thinking when it comes to that. You're pretty much just regurgitating what the story had told you. Then we move up a level to the next one, which is comprehension. Comprehension, the learner is given a pattern, then asked to paraphrase it or extend the pattern. So you're given a pattern, then you're asked to put it in your own words or kind of push it a little bit further along down the line. So an example of that would be, why do you think rabbit tricked fox? Why do you think fox tricked rabbit? So why did fox do these things to rabbit? You still have the evidence in front of there. You're kind of putting the pieces together to kind of draw a conclusion for yourself. We go up to the next one, which is application. Application is the learner is given a pattern, then finds a use for it in a new situation. So I give you something and you find a new way to use that information. Now, for why rabbit has a short tail, the example would be, if fox had met you at the river, what are some of the things that you might have done different? I'm giving you the pattern of the story, and then you are applying that pattern of the story to your own life. Then we move on to analysis. Analysis, the learner finds the pattern by him or herself. So the learner has to find these patterns, this repeated thing that keeps appearing within the story. An example for this story would be what parts of why rabbit has a short tail could have actually happened. So you kind of analyze through there, and you're like, this is the thing that could actually have happened. This is a thing that seems realistic and seems down to earth. Then we move up into the higher levels of thinking. The higher levels of thinking, which are synthesis and evaluation. Now, synthesis is asking for the learner to create, combine, or ignore patterns. You either you create your own patterns, you combine patterns, or you completely block them away. Most of the time, whenever you're creating something, that is whenever synthesis is being applied. And for our story, you might say something along the lines of, how might the story have been different if rabbit did not trick fox? So you're taking the story, you're changing one bit of it, and then seeing how the story would be different as a result of this change. So that's requiring you to create a new ending to the story. Then the last one is evaluation. Evaluation is the learner is asked to compare patterns. You're assigning a value to the patterns that you're comparing. And the example that they give you is, why do you think rabbit was good or bad? Why do you think so? You're assigning a value to rabbit, good or bad, and then explaining the why behind your evaluation. Another example, one that you might encounter in an English class or my class more frequently, would be read the story, decide what the main theme is, the main idea or the concept of the story is, then using examples from the text, write a 5-paragraph essay to answer those questions. That essentially is you evaluating, here's the idea and here's the evidence that I have to support my argument. This is the idea that the story is exploring. All right. So at the end of this, I want you to kind of revisit these 6. So we'll go back up here. I will pause this, and I want you to reevaluate them, except with the goal of order the 6 levels of thinking from the most useful to the least useful. What is the most useful for you in your learning, and what is the least useful for you in your learning? So I'll bring it back up here and pause it and re-rank them. Welcome back. All right, so you reevaluated them, and if we were in class together, I would ask you, so what did you rank them here and there? In fact, in the comments of this video, tell me what you thought was the most useful Bloom skill. Now, one last thing, this is for note-taking. A lot of people, especially when you're sophomores, you're still taking your notes verbatim. That means word for word, exactly what is on the slide, exactly what is on the board. That is whenever you're participating in knowledge level, the lowest level of Bloom's. You need to demonstrate comprehension when you're note-taking. So whenever you're taking notes, you don't need to write down every word that's up on a slide. You actually need to paraphrase it. You need to take the information that's being given to you and put it in your own words. That way it kind of sinks in more, and it makes the note-taking actually a valuable thing, and it's not just in one ear and out the other. All right. So hopefully you learned something. So answer this question to yourself. What did you learn today? And sum up today's lesson in one word. So the homework assignment for us today, for y'all today, is read the story and come up with 6 questions for each level of Bloom's. Now, I provided you with this kind of stem. Each box is a different level of blooms to kind of help you with that. And the same thing on the second page of it is other question stems that you can kind of use to help you create questions, higher level and lower level questions for why rabbit had a short tail. If you have any questions, I'll be on at 10. I'll stay on until about 10:15ish. I decided to extend it 10 more minutes for VOTEC kids. I know sophomores don't take VOTEC, but seniors, we do it at the same time as well. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.